We're at 4. Like, come on, man. This is the time. This is the
All
time,
right,
Brian.
I'll relieve you from your misery, John. Yes, I put the Detroit Lions at number 4, but I can see them crawling up into number 3 if that defense gets better. They did a lot on paper. The secondary was the biggest issue. They addressed it full speed in free agency. They added a former Niner and Emmanuel Mosley. They added Cam Sutton. They added Jack Campbell.
Love both those moves. I did like both those.
They added Jack Campbell, which not crazy about the draft spot. They probably could have got him much later, but by all accounts was really the only first-round worthy off-ball linebacker. Added him in the middle. You've got Aiden Hutchinson going into year 2. James Houston, a surprising rookie, so they've got multiple pieces on the edge. I love adding Sam Laporta at tight end. He was actually one of my favorites, maybe even number 2 behind Dalton Kincaid. I personally had him above Michael Mayer, so I love that they got Laporta in the second round. Brian Branch, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, rookie and great safety addition. Once again, on paper, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Say what you want about where they drafted him, probably too high, but that is a weapon that they can now add that helps in the run and pass game. Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, is retained. And I love Dan Campbell as a head coach. There's a lot to like about this Lions team. Don Burr thinks I'm still not high enough, even though I put him at 4.
Crazy, man. I love Don Burr. He's a good dude.
I want to add on this real quick, John. Don, you have to prove it, though. The producer of my show, who I've been working with for 2 years, is a Lions fan. I talk with a Lions fan multiple times every week, but they still, at the end of the day, did not make the playoffs. They started 1-6. They're in a division. Aaron Rodgers is gone. You can win it, but you still need to win it. When's the last time the Lions won the NFC North? So as much as you think they could be 3, they haven't proven it yet. So 4 is probably high for most people. I just believe in them, but let's temper the expectations until they actually show it on the field.
It's been 31 years since they have won a playoff game.
Jeez.
31 years.
Wow.
31. Big Papa says teams play hard for their coaches, going to be worth a couple wins every. But see, here's my thing. Like I've been around coaching staffs with that rah, we're going to fight everybody. And it works to start. Eventually, after year after year after year of hearing that, it starts to dissipate. At some point, you have to bring a scheme advantage against your opponents, and I just don't see that with this team. They had the 32nd ranked defense last year. I know that they added all these guys,
yes,
but their locker room is trash. How many players they got suspended for gambling? Like the most, I think it's 6.
I think it was total of 6. Yeah.
Jameson
Williams was the only one who's could be a significant contributor, but he didn't start until the end of the season last year anyway. Like I said, I love Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator. I think he doesn't get enough. I think he'll be one of the top head coaching candidates next year. Detroit versus their damn selves. Could be.
That's awesome.
But let's remember the division. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is gone. We just talked about how the Vikings are sliding in the opposite direction. The Bears have a lot of hope, but they still were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year. Jordan Love, who knows what you're getting there? This is a division is wide open for the Lions. They finished with a winning record, knocked the Packers off. They were this close, and they seem on paper to have only gotten better. I'm not predicting they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but I think the Lions are here to stay to win this division and may make some noise in the wild card round.
And so I think they're going to win the division as well. I would have put them 6th. I'd put them ahead of the Vikings. I'd put them 6th. And right here, Don, he says, that's not rah, it's fundamentals. Ben Johnson, best OC in football. I don't disagree. Well, I do disagree.
Well, best OC in football. Let's
no. He's good. He's very good.
Yeah,
but their defense is absolutely horrid.
Yeah.
They are never fundamentally sound on defense, and they brought back Aaron Glenn, who I like. Aaron Glenn.
Questionable, yes.
But they extended him. And everybody wants to talk about their streak down the wire. Listen to the teams they beat. I think there's 2 or 3 quality wins. They beat the Packers, who were terrible, the Bears, who lost 10 straight. They beat the Giants. They beat the tar out of the Giants. I think that's one quality win. They beat Jacksonville. That's a quality win. Then they beat Minnesota, not a quality win. The Jets, they were done by that point. Got blown out by Sam Darnold and the Panthers. Then beat the Bears, then beat the Packers. So you got 2. Now, you only win against your schedule, what's set out. But, people are acting like this team was, knocking everybody. You're beating the terrible Packers. like
I
don't
think the
know, man.
Jaguars, that actually
Jaguars
is
is
maybe
huge.
the most quality victory on there because they beat Jacksonville when Jacksonville was starting to surge and starting to figure things out. I think the Jags will make a lot of noise in the AFC. But I'm still with you. The defense is the question. This offense, they were a top 5 offense last year, John. This offense is not going
Great,
anywhere. They
great.
only added to it. Great offensive line. The defense is the question mark. If they can just get to like a top 20 defense, this is a team who can make noise.
Yeah,
And I think that's what I'm banking on is that they'll go
yeah,
from 32 to 20.
yeah. I'm with you there. And right here, defense was ranked top 10 last 10 games. Come on, man. You gave up 30 points. I don't know, man. I don't want to go through that. But I like the Lions. I just think everybody's just way too far. I have them sixth. Like I have them winning the division, but I'm sorry, I don't think a playoff win's
They
coming this
need to
year. I
prove
hope it
it.
is.
They
I'll
need to
pull
prove it.
for them. I like the
Yeah.
Lions. I like Campbell. It's just I don't like them near as much. I think the Hard Knocks bump that everybody like bought in, and the whole time I was like, nope, nope, nope. And I put in big, betting on them not making the playoffs last year, and I got paid off on it. Should they have made it? They got pretty damn close. But yeah, I don't know, man. All right, now we're to the final 3.
By the
We've
way, how
got
did you get a Lions fan and like is this regular as the 49ers podcast? I mean, I love it, but
Don Burst. Well, so a couple years ago, we opened the season with the Lions. And
mm,
so Don Burr, who's incredible, he was bouncing around a lot of the 49er shows all offseason, kind of talking trash, which was awesome. And so I freaking love it, man. I love it. But
nice.
all right, here we are, the top 3, the creme de la creme. We've got the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys left. Who you got at number 3?
A team that I could see falling down. Another team that I get as of now, they're going to be number 3, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. How much does losing Kellen Moore hurt? How much does
Huge.
Mike MacArthur coming in saying he's going to call the plays? Last time he called the plays, it ended up getting him fired in Green Bay. So I'm not a fan of that, but I do love the pieces, and I love what they've done in the offseason. They really needed an extra legitimate threat outside of CeeDee Lamb. They went and got Brandon Cooks. Say what you want, he's a little bit older, but the guy just racks up 1,000 yards like it's nothing. They needed help in the secondary. Stephon Gilmore, and Gilmore doesn't need to be the CB1. You've got Trevon Diggs there. Gilmore can be an amazing number 2. Everything out of camp is that that Gilmore has looked the part. So I love the pieces. I love that they addressed very direct needs. They were a playoff team last year, blew the doors off the Bucs, but I just don't know what I'm getting in Mike McCarthy. So this could be one of those where the Cowboys could be out of the playoffs, right? If the Commanders take a leap, if the Giants stay right where they are, if the Lions, if this thing goes off the rails, and Dak's another one. Dak, unlike Geno, is when things are good around him, he can be a top 5-6 quarterback. Mm-hmm. But he also has the capability, led the NFL in interceptions last year, to fall off in the other direction. I just don't know what we're getting with McCarthy. It's so many unknowns in the NFC with so many of these teams. That's a big one, but in the meantime, I'll keep him at 3.
Yeah, I think coaching matters. Like, that's what it is. And, you know, the 49ers knocking the Cowboys. What's up, David Walder? David's, just for those people that know in the chat, he's making fun of everybody. David was my mentor teacher, so to speak, back in Texas. We worked together. Huge Cowboys fan. Not the smartest guy, obviously, but a really good guy. Really good guy. I love
you got
David.
Lions guys, you got Cowboys guys hanging out in the 49ers Rush chat.
But, like, at some point, when is enough going to be enough? You constantly build your team around players with off-field issues, with me-first mentalities and all that stuff, and they might be better players. But whenever it comes down to the wire, you put Zeke at center with the game on the line, getting blown up. Don't know how to manage the clock with Dak because the coach goes like, "Oh, it's a perfect call," whatever. Like, they're just not well coached. It's just not it.
And the one bright spot is Kellen Moore is now in LA with the Chargers. Right. So I'm worried about how much of a regression. I think the defense will be fine under Dan Quinn. Micah Parsons is already one of the top players in the entire NFL. What a find there. But that offense, short of the pieces, which are good. I'm a huge Tony Pollard fan.
Brandon Cooks was a huge addition as well.
Correct. But if the play calling is bad, if the in-game decision-making continues to be questionable from McCarthy, I think 3's the ceiling for them. You mentioned, they're not number 3, number 1 in the chat, David. I think 3's the ceiling. I think we could see them actually outperform worse than that at the end of the year.
Yeah. They just can't win in the playoffs, man. And so, they're a great team, and I think they're going to be a great team. To be honest with you, if you're looking at rosters, I think you could put any of these top 3 teams 1, 2, or 3, but the coaching aspect makes you want to put the Cowboys lower than 3.
I can't put the
Um,
Cowboys at 1. The
yeah,
top 2 teams we can debate, but the Dallas, like I said, I think this is their ceiling. They could win the East just because nobody ever wins the East 2 years in a row. It's like this weird thing
yeah,
that's been
right.
going on for almost 2 decades. But to say that they're a better team than the Eagles and the Niners, it's I think yet another tier break, John. I think there's a decent gap between the Cowboys and the top 2 teams.
Yeah, I'm fair with that. David says Dak led the league in picks and didn't even play all the games. That is factually correct. Yeah, and if you want to talk about Diggs, I love this. Josh, IU torched that man. Just made him look silly. So we'll see. Well, we're going to get a play this year, week 5. We'll be at that game, baby. 49ers Rush road trip. It's going to be at home. It's going to be incredible. And so I chat all you Dallas peeps, come on out, man. Let's go. Come
That'd
party.
be a fun
We'll
game.
party with you
Maybe
guys.
I'll go to that game. I'll find a few Niners games to go to this year.
There we go. All right, now we're to number 2, the runner-up. Who you got, buddy?
We have to follow the last thing we saw because there weren't major changes from either of these rosters. There's additions, subtractions. I got to stick with the Niners at number 2 until they get over that hump, until we see them beat the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I predicted the Eagles to win before the game. I'm a huge Brock Purdy fan. For those that don't know, I've been on Purdy since he started. I've been on this show saying that. But I just think that the Eagles are just there with Jalen Hurts playing at an MVP caliber level. If he can repeat that, they lost some pieces on defense, but they also added some pieces on defense. They also had some young guys. I guess we're talking about both here because there's no surprise. We're talking about the Eagles and the Niners. Let's just talk about the Niners. That's what we're here for. Huge addition with Javon Hargrave. He could end up making this defense, which was phenomenal last year, even better. Steve Wilkes, I don't think he's as good as DeMeco Ryans, but he's still a very good defensive coach. You don't need an amazing schematic guy when you've got the pieces on defense that the Niners have. Secondary is still going to be a question, but they weren't bad last year. They were actually pretty good. Charvarius Ward actually was one of the top corners in the entire NFL. So there's not a lot of weaknesses across the board. Biggest question mark, obviously, is quarterback position. It's not because I don't believe in Purdy, but how much does that injury affect him? At what point does he come back at full strength? Even if he starts, is he ready? He might need a few ramp-up games. Luckily, the division is really weak outside of Seattle. The conference is really weak. I think you're cruising to another 11, 12, maybe 13 win season. I do think it'll be Philadelphia and San Francisco battling for to get into the Super Bowl again. But since the Eagles beat them last time, I got to stick with Philly at 1 and your Niners at 2.
I don't have a problem with that at all, especially just because the Brock Purdy injury. I think that changes things.
Yeah.
If you had a healthy quarterback, you could say, okay, well, Trey Lance is there, but we haven't seen it. That's the thing. So it's just one too many questions at that. But if you're looking at rosters, I don't think anybody disagrees that the Eagles and the 49ers are cut above everybody else, especially the NFC. It's just there. Don Burr, I'm with you. He says Niners are not number 2. I'm with you. I have Niners number 1. So on that, we agree. Number 5. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm with John here. Regardless of who you think is 1 or 2, there's a decent gap between the Niners and Eagles and the teams below them in the NFC, including the Cowboys at 3. So anybody who doesn't think the Niners are at least number 2, if Purdy is healthy, even if they lose to the Eagles, if he doesn't have that elbow injury and he goes through a full off season, fully healthy, it might be tougher for me to put the Eagles at number 1, and I might be considering putting the Niners there. The injury is the one thing, honestly, at the most important position that's keeping it slightly down. We don't know what we're getting from Purdy in year 2, coming off a very serious surgery.
Yeah, and, the 49ers get to play the Eagles again, and it's in October, which I'm excited about.
That's in Philly, right?
Yeah, it's in Philly.
Yeah.
It is in Philly. So, but we went to Philly. We played them 3 years in a row. We played them week 2. We were at that game, 49ers Rush road trip, and, we beat them in Philly. And all the Philly fans were walking out of the game. I got tackled and pushed, but that's okay. But yeah, I don't know. So I think this is what the NFC is going to be for a while. Maybe if the Cowboys get a legitimate coach, but it's hard not to see the 49ers and Eagles just going at it for the next 5 to 6 years. Can the Lions step up? The Seahawks, can Geno really have that ceiling? I don't know. Giants, maybe, but that roster doesn't. It's not on par with the Eagles and 49ers. Big Papa says
If Jordan Love becomes amazing, maybe you could see the rest of that Packers. Well, we don't know. We have so many question marks.
Yeah. Big Papa says 49ers and Eagles both moving from third place schedules to first place schedules. It should make a difference. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to have 14 wins and 13 wins. I don't think that's happening, especially with the 49ers travel schedule. Good gosh. Ooh, terrible.
I haven't even looked at cross-division conference. I don't know who's playing who. I haven't broken all that down yet. I'll do that later in the offseason. But even if they both lose less, it's still, there's just not a whole lot of competition, true competition in the rest of the NFC. In their divisions, the Eagles have a tougher. I could see the Niners getting the number 1 seed simply because the Eagles will have to face the Giants twice and the Cowboys twice and the Commanders twice, whereas the Niners really just have to deal with the Seahawks and then 2 really, really bad Rams and Cardinals teams. To be determined. So even if they don't have 14 and 13 wins, they're still going to be the 1 and 2 seed, barring something unforeseen.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.